Dear friends, this year on March 22, World Water Day, the United Nations calls us to value the importance of properly managing aquifers, groundwater, in the current perspective of climate change. Underground aquifers are the water lungs of nature on islands and continents. But today, aquifers can and should be also strategic reserves to face the extraordinary droughts that climate change will harden. The fresh water we see in lakes, wetlands, and rivers is just the tip of the iceberg. Most of the fresh water is in the aquifers that feed these surface flows and support life on islands and continents, including the life of human communities. With climate change, the risks of drought are growing and will grow, while average river flows will be seriously reduced, not so much by reduced precipitation, but by the large increase in water consumed and transpired by vegetation as temperatures rise. The greatest social risks arising from climate change are and will be generated around water, which should lead us to promote the hydrological transition as the axis of adaptation strategies. Just as the energy transition presides over mitigation strategies insofar as the energy vector is the main generator of greenhouse gases. In the face of increasing climate variability, the key to adaptation strategies lies in strengthening the resilience of the water cycle by recovering and conserving the functionality of the most inertial ecosystems of the water cycle, that is, wetlands, riverbank ecosystems in riverbeds, and above all, underground aquifers. To this end, it is and will be essential to care for and conserve the vegetation cover and the infiltration zones that feed the aquifers. But above all, it is and will be essential to put an end to the appropriation, pollution, and overexploitation of groundwater for productive uses. In many countries, groundwater is considered, or at least managed de facto, as if it were the property of the owner of the land on which the well was drilled, which often leads to an individualistic and abusive use of a common good, water, jeopardizing the human rights to safe drinking water and sanitation in the current climate change outlook. On the one hand, the massive use of pesticides and fertilizers is generating a diffuse contamination of many aquifers that threatens public health and the human rights of the population supplied by them. But on the other hand, the overexploitation of many aquifers increases the vulnerability of water supplies due to the scarcity of water during drought cycles and often forcing water to be supplied from further away, with the consequent price increases. In this context, the management of aquifers with strict respect for their sustainability as the water lungs of our rivers and other aquatic ecosystems must be complemented, as I said before, by a new function that is vital for dealing with ongoing climate, that of being strategic reserves in the face of future extraordinary droughts that will tend to be increasingly severe and prolonged. That is why I want to end this brief message by insisting that the human rights to safe drinking water and sanitation are at risk if we continue to allow private appropriation, overexploitation, and contamination of aquifers to the extent that the potability of water is degraded, the risks of scarcity in drought periods and tariffs skyrocket, and ultimately the vulnerability of the population increases in drought cycle, especially for those who live in poverty and in situation of marginalization. Thank you very much.